There's a broadcast happening right now. Not through radio waves or Wi-Fi signals. Through the fabric of reality itself. The universe is transmitting information constantly, a frequency so precise that it orchestrates the movement of planets, the rhythm of tides, the unfolding of DNA, and the beat of your heart. And most people never tune into it. Not because they can't, because they don't know it exists. They spend their entire lives tuned to static, to the noise of survival, to the chatter of fear, to the endless loop of thoughts that keep them locked in a narrow band of perception. And they wonder why life feels like a struggle. Why nothing flows. Why effort doesn't translate into ease. And the answer is simple. They're not tuned to the right frequency. They're broadcasting on one channel while the universe is transmitting on another. And the disconnect creates friction, resistance, the feeling that you're rowing against the current no matter how hard you try. But here's what most people don't realize. The universe isn't broadcasting randomly. It's not chaos. It's not noise. It's a coherent signal, a frequency that carries information, guidance, intelligence. And that frequency is what mystics have called the divine. Not a being, not a deity sitting on a throne, but a current, a flow, an organizing principle that moves through everything, connecting everything, aligning everything that's willing to align. And when you tune into it, when you match your frequency to the frequency of that current, everything changes. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, because you're finally receiving the signal that was always there. You're no longer deaf to the broadcast. You're listening, and what you hear transforms how you move, how you choose, how you create. The divine frequency isn't mystical. It's mechanical. It operates according to principles. And those principles can be understood, can be applied, can be practiced. This isn't about faith. It's about tuning, like adjusting a radio dial until the station comes in clear. You're not creating the station. You're just eliminating the interference so you can hear what's being transmitted. And the interference, the static blocking the signal, is generated by you, by your fear, by your doubt, by your attachment to outcomes, by your need for control, by the mental loops that keep you vibrating at frequencies incompatible with the divine broadcast. And the moment you clear the interference, the moment you still the noise, the signal comes through sharp, clear, unmistakable, and it doesn't shout, it whispers, it nudges, it guides, and if you're tuned in, you feel it, you follow it, and life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a dance. But most people have never been taught how to tune in. They've been taught to tune out, to ignore intuition, to dismiss the subtle, to trust only what's loud, what's visible, what's approved by consensus. And that training, that conditioning, creates a population of people who are functionally deaf to the divine frequency. They go through life making decisions based on fear, on external pressure, on what others expect. And those decisions, because they're not aligned with the frequency, create outcomes that feel forced, fragmented, exhausting. And they blame the universe. They say life is hard, that success requires sacrifice, that you have to fight for everything. But that's not truth. That's just what it feels like when you're out of tune, when you're not receiving the signal, when you're operating from static instead of clarity. And here's the thing. Tuning in doesn't require years of meditation or monastic discipline or special gifts. It requires willingness, the willingness to slow down, to listen, To trust what you feel even when it doesn't make logical sense. Because the divine frequency doesn't speak in words. It speaks in sensations, in pulls, in a quiet knowing that rises from somewhere deeper than thought. And if you've ever had a moment where you just knew something, where you couldn't explain it but you were certain, that was the signal. That was the broadcast. You were tuned in. And the question is, can you stay tuned in? Can you make that state your default instead of a rare accident? Because that's the skill. Not finding the frequency once, but learning to hold it. And holding it is what this is about. Before we go further, if you're finding value in this, if something here is resonating, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Because this channel is dedicated to cutting through the noise and getting to the truth that actually shifts reality. And when you subscribe, when you like, when you share these videos, you're not just supporting the channel. You're amplifying the frequency. You're helping this information reach those who are ready for it. So subscribe. Let's build a community of people who are done with static and ready to tune in. You're not hearing the divine frequency because something is blocking it. And that something isn't external. It's internal. It's the layers of interference you've been carrying, most of which you're not even aware of. And until you identify the interference, until you recognize what's creating the static, you can't clear it. And if you can't clear it, you'll keep straining to hear a signal that's being drowned out by noise you're generating. So let's talk about what's blocking your reception. Because once you see it, once you name it, you can begin to remove it. And removal isn't suppression. It's dissolution. It's releasing what no longer serves so that what's always been there can finally be heard. The first layer of interference is mental noise. The constant stream of thoughts running through your head. Planning, analyzing, judging, replaying, anticipating. Most people mistake this noise for themselves. They believe they are their thoughts. But you're not. You're the awareness that hears the thoughts. And when you identify with the noise, when you believe every thought that arises, you drown out the signal. Because the divine frequency is subtle. It's quiet. And it can't compete with the volume of mental chatter. So the first step in clearing interference is learning to quiet the mind. Not by forcing it, by observing it, by recognizing that thoughts are not commands. They're suggestions. And most of them are repetitive, useless, fear-based loops that serve no purpose except to keep you distracted. And distraction is the enemy of reception. The second layer is emotional turbulence. Unprocessed emotions create static. When you're carrying anger that hasn't been expressed, grief that hasn't been felt, fear that hasn't been acknowledged, those emotions generate interference. They vibrate at frequencies that disrupt your ability to tune in. Not because emotions are bad, but because suppressed emotions become dense. They create blockages, and blockages prevent the flow. So clearing interference requires emotional honesty. It requires you to stop pretending you're fine when you're not. To stop stuffing emotions down because they're inconvenient. And to let yourself feel fully, completely, without story or judgment. Because once an emotion is felt, it moves. And once it moves, it's no longer blocking the signal. The third layer is belief. Specifically, limiting beliefs about yourself, about life, about what's possible. If you believe the universe is random, that life is hard, that you're unworthy, those beliefs create filters. They distort the signal. They make you interpret guidance as coincidence, synchronicity as luck, intuition as imagination. And the more rigid your beliefs, the thicker the filter. So tuning in requires belief flexibility. It requires you to hold your beliefs lightly, to question them, to recognize that most of what you believe wasn't chosen by you. It was handed to you, by culture, by family, by experience. And just because you've believed something for decades doesn't make it true. Beliefs are lenses, and lenses can be changed. And when you change the lens, you change what you're able to see. The fourth layer is attachment, to outcomes, to people, to identities. When you're attached, when you need something to be a certain way, you create resistance. And resistance is interference. Because the divine frequency flows, it moves, and when you're gripping, when you're clinging, you block the flow. You create a dam. And behind that dam, pressure builds. And pressure creates stress. And stress is low frequency. So clearing interference means practicing detachment. Not as coldness, as trust, trusting that what's meant for you won't pass you by. That you don't need to force. That the signal will guide you to what's aligned and away from what's not. And when you trust, when you release the grip, the flow returns. And with the flow, the signal becomes clear. The fifth layer is distraction. External noise. The constant bombardment of information, notifications, entertainment, news. All of it designed to pull your attention outward, to keep you reactive, to prevent you from going inward where the signal actually lives. Because the divine frequency doesn't broadcast from outside. It broadcasts from within. And when you're constantly consuming external content, when your attention is fragmented across a dozen inputs, you can't hear the internal broadcast. You're too busy listening to everything else. So tuning in requires digital discipline. It requires creating space, silence, stillness, not as a luxury, as a necessity. Because the signal is always there. But you'll only hear it in the gaps. In the pauses. In the moments when you stop filling every second with noise. And here's the truth. The interference isn't permanent. It's learned. Which means it can be unlearned. You weren't born with mental chatter. You developed it. You weren't born with suppressed emotions. You learned to suppress. You weren't born with limiting beliefs. You absorbed them. And what was learned can be released. Not overnight, but consistently. Through practices that clear instead of accumulate. Through choices that quiet instead of amplify. And every time you clear even a little interference, even for a moment, the signal gets stronger. The frequency becomes more recognizable. And recognition is the beginning of alignment. And alignment is where the magic happens. Clearing interference is the first step. But clearing alone isn't enough. You need practices that actively tune you in. That train your system to recognize the divine frequency and lock onto it. And these practices aren't complicated. They're not esoteric. They're accessible to anyone willing to do them. And the key word is do. Because understanding how to tune in without actually tuning in is like understanding how to swim without ever getting in the water. The knowledge is useless until it's applied. So let's talk about what actually works. What actually shifts your frequency from static to signal? The first practice is breath. Conscious breath. Your breath is the most direct link between your conscious and unconscious systems. And when you breathe consciously, when you slow it down, deepen it, extend it, you shift your nervous system out of fight or flight and into rest and receive. And rest and receive is the state where the signal comes through. Not in panic. Not in urgency. In calm. So the practice is simple. Sit, close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Breathe out through your mouth for a count of 6. The longer exhale activates your parasympathetic system. It signals safety. And in safety, the static decreases. And as the static decreases, the signal emerges. Do this for 5 minutes, not once, daily, because tuning in isn't a one-time event. It's a practice. And practices, when repeated, become states. And states become your baseline. The second practice is stillness. Not meditation in the formal sense. Just stillness. Sitting without agenda. Without trying to achieve anything. Just being. And in that being, without distraction, without input, your system begins to recalibrate. The noise starts to settle. And beneath the noise, the signal is always there. Waiting. Not demanding. Just present. So the practice is to create pockets of stillness throughout your day. Not hour-long sessions. 5 minutes in the morning. 3 minutes at midday. 2 minutes before bed. Small doses of nothing. And in that nothing, everything that actually matters begins to surface. Not as thought. As knowing. As a felt sense. As clarity that doesn't need to be explained. The third practice is nature. The natural world vibrates at frequencies that align with the divine broadcast. Trees, water, mountains, soil, these aren't decorations. They're transmitters. And when you spend time in nature, when you remove yourself from artificial environments and artificial frequencies, your system naturally tunes in. Because nature doesn't generate interference. It amplifies signal. So the practice is to go outside. Barefoot if possible. Not to exercise, to let your body remember that it's part of the system. That it's not separate. That the same intelligence growing a tree is the intelligence animating you. And that remembering, that reconnection, is a tuning. Subtle but profound. The fourth practice is intuition training. Your intuition is your internal receiver. And like any receiver, it gets sharper with use. So the practice is to follow small intuitive hits. Not the big life-altering ones where the stakes are high. The small ones. You feel a pull to call someone. Call them. You feel a nudge to take a different route. Take it. You feel a sense that you should wait before deciding. Wait. And every time you follow the intuition, even when it doesn't make logical sense, you strengthen the connection. You build trust. And trust is what allows the signal to get louder. Because the universe doesn't waste energy sending you guidance if you're not going to follow it. But when you prove you're listening, when you demonstrate that you'll act on what you receive, the signal intensifies. The guidance becomes clearer. And you move from guessing to knowing. The fifth practice is gratitude. Not as a technique to get more. As a frequency. Gratitude vibrates high. And high vibration is where the divine frequency lives. So when you practice gratitude, when you genuinely feel it in your body, not just think it in your mind, you shift your frequency upward, you align, and in alignment, reception becomes natural. So the practice is to identify 3 things each day that you're genuinely grateful for. Not big things. Small things. The warmth of the sun. The taste of water. The fact that your heart is still beating. And let yourself feel the gratitude. Let it spread through your chest. Let it soften your face. Because that feeling, that somatic experience of gratitude, is a tuning fork. And when you strike it, you resonate with the frequency you're trying to receive. And if you're getting value from this, if these practices are landing, take a moment right now and hit the like button. Because that simple action tells the algorithm to share this with more people. And the more people who tune in, the more the collective frequency shifts. So like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe if you haven't already. Because this work, this information, it's not for everyone. But it's for you. And when you engage, you become part of the transmission. Tuning in is one thing. Recognizing the signal when it arrives is another. Because the divine frequency doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force. It whispers. It nudges. And if you're not paying attention, if you're still lost in noise, you'll miss it. You'll dismiss it as random, as coincidence, as your imagination. And you'll keep waiting for guidance to arrive in some grand, undeniable form. But it rarely does. It arrives subtly. And subtlety requires sensitivity. And sensitivity requires practice. So let's talk about what the signal actually feels like, how it shows up, and how to distinguish it from the noise that pretends to be signal. The first way the signal shows up is through synchronicity, meaningful coincidences. You think of someone and they call. You need information and a book falls off a shelf. You have a question and the answer appears in a conversation you overhear. These aren't accidents. They're the universe confirming that you're tuned in, that you're on the right frequency. And the more you acknowledge synchronicities, the more they appear. Not because you're manifesting them, because you're finally noticing them. They were always there. You were just too busy to see. So recognizing the signal means paying attention to patterns, to repetitions, to things that feel too aligned to be random. Because they're not random. They're the broadcast. The second way is through body sensations. The signal doesn't come through the mind. It comes through the body. A tightness in your chest when something's off. An expansion when something's right. A pull toward something. A resistance away from something. These aren't emotions. They're data. Your body is reading frequencies that your mind can't process. And it's communicating through sensation. So recognizing the signal means dropping into your body and asking, how does this feel? Not, what do I think about this? But, how does this land in my system? And when something feels light, expansive, open, that's a yes. That's alignment. And when something feels heavy, contracting, closed, that's a no. That's misalignment. And the body doesn't lie. The mind lies constantly. The body tells the truth. The third way is through flow. When you're tuned in, things flow. Not always easily, but smoothly. Doors open. Resources appear. People show up. And there's a sense that you're being carried instead of dragging yourself forward. This doesn't mean there's no effort, but the effort feels productive instead of futile. You're rowing with the current, not against it. So recognizing the signal means noticing when flow is present, and when it's not. And when it's not, when everything feels like a fight, that's feedback. That's the universe telling you you're out of tune, that you're forcing something that doesn't align. And the correction isn't to push harder. It's to stop, recalibrate, and tune back in. The fourth way is through peace. The divine frequency, when you're locked onto it, generates peace. not happiness, not excitement, peace, a deep, unshakable calm that doesn't depend on circumstances. And when you feel that peace, even in the middle of chaos, you know you're tuned in. You know the signal is strong. And when you don't feel it, when there's constant anxiety, restlessness, agitation, that's interference. That's static. And static is a signal too. It's telling you something's off. Something needs to shift. And the shift is always internal. Always a return to alignment. Always a tuning. The fifth way is through knowing. Not thinking. Knowing. There's a difference. Thinking is loud. It argues. It questions. It second guesses. Knowing is quiet. It doesn't argue. It just is. And when you receive guidance from the divine frequency, it comes as knowing, as clarity that doesn't need justification. And the mind will try to override it. The mind will say, "But that doesn't make sense. But what if you're wrong?" And if you listen to the mind, you'll dismiss the signal. But if you trust the knowing, if you act on it even when it defies logic, you'll discover that it was right. Not always in the way you expected, but always in alignment with what's actually needed. And that discovery builds trust. And trust strengthens the connection. And the connection, once strong, becomes your primary navigation system. There's a point where tuning in stops being something you do and starts being something you are. Where the practices integrate so deeply that they're no longer separate from your life. Where listening to the divine frequency becomes as natural as breathing. And when you reach that point, when you're no longer working to tune in but simply living tuned in, everything changes. Not because life becomes perfect, because you're no longer at war with it. You're no longer resisting. You're flowing. And flow is the natural state of the universe. And when you align with it, when you become it, life stops being a problem to solve and starts being a current to ride. Living as the frequency means you make decisions differently. You stop relying solely on logic, on pros and cons lists, on what makes sense on paper. You check in with the signal first. You feel into the choice. And you trust what you receive, even when it doesn't make sense, even when others don't understand, because you've learned that the signal sees further than the mind, that it's connected to a web of information your conscious awareness can't access. And when you follow it, when you act on it, things unfold in ways you couldn't have planned. Doors open that weren't on your radar. Opportunities appear that you didn't know existed. And you realize that the frequency isn't just guiding you. It's co-creating with you. And co-creation is effortless. Because you're not doing it alone. Living as the frequency means you stop forcing. You stop trying to make things happen through sheer will. Because will is limited. It's personal. It's small. But the frequency is infinite. And when you align with it, you tap into something far greater than your individual effort. You become a conduit. And what moves through you is more powerful than anything you could generate alone. So you work. But you work from inspiration, not desperation. From alignment, not obligation. And the work feels different. It doesn't deplete. It energizes. Because it's flowing through you, not from you. Living as the frequency means you become sensitive to misalignment. You feel it immediately when you've drifted off the signal. And you don't stay there. You don't spiral. You notice. You pause. You breathe. You tune back in. And the return becomes faster each time. Because you've trained your system to recognize the difference between signal and static. And that recognition is the skill. not avoiding static, returning from it. And the faster you return, the more time you spend aligned. And the more time you spend aligned, the more your reality reflects that alignment. Not as magic, as law. Because frequency determines experience. And when your frequency is locked onto the divine broadcast, experience becomes a reflection of that. Living as the frequency also means you become a transmitter. You're not just receiving, you're broadcasting. And what you broadcast affects the field around you. People feel it when they're near you. They can't always name it, but they sense something different, something steady, something that makes them feel safer, clearer, more possible. And that's not about you being special. It's about you being tuned in. And tuned in people affect the frequency of spaces, relationships, systems. They raise it, not by preaching, by being. And being is always more powerful than doing. And finally, living as the frequency means you trust the broadcast even when you can't see the full picture. Because the divine frequency operates beyond your individual timeline. It's not just guiding your next step. It's orchestrating a symphony. And you're one note in that symphony. And your note, played at the right time, in the right way, contributes to something far larger than you can comprehend. So you play your note, you trust, and you let the symphony unfold. And in that trust, in that surrender, you find the deepest peace. Because you're no longer carrying the burden of figuring everything out. You're just listening and following and living as the frequency you were always meant to embody. The universe is broadcasting right now, this moment, and the signal is clear. It's not hidden. It's not reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to tune in. And tuning in doesn't require perfection. It requires willingness. The willingness to quiet the noise. To clear the interference. To practice the tuning. To recognize the signal. And to live aligned with what you receive. And when you do, when you commit to this, life becomes what it was always meant to be. Not a struggle, a dance, not a fight, a flow, not random chaos, divine order. And you, tuned in, become part of that order, consciously, deliberately, powerfully. So if this resonated, if you feel the pull to dive deeper, do 3 things. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next transmission. Like this video so more people can find it. And share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because the frequency spreads through those who carry it. And when you share, you're not just passing along information. You're amplifying the signal. You're helping others tune in. And the more people tuned in, the stronger the collective frequency becomes. So subscribe, like, share, and most importantly, tune in. Because the broadcast is waiting. And it's been waiting for you.